US share markets roared back to life in overnight trading after a tepid response from Tehran to the bombing of Iran by the US. And the attack on the US base in Qatar was timid and very well flagged by the Iranians to both Qataris and by extension the US. And this very timid response from Iran has really cheered investor sentiment. Risk appetites rose in overnight trading in response. As it became clear, investors concluded this meant that de-escalation is now on the agenda for the Middle East, and that dropping of tensions and that decrease in fear has had an immediate impact on investor sentiment. And as we can see from this oil chart, there's been a very dramatic change around in thinking about the Middle East in overnight trading. Now, those two candles on the right represent last night's session in the US and the beginning of what is the US overnight session. As you can see, they're both very red candles, and they're showing a dramatic turnaround in the outlook for oil. The conclusion by many investors and oil traders in particular is that with those tensions now falling, oil should flow much more readily from the Middle East. And that, of course, is an indication of the positive news that the developments represented overnight. We had seen a weak European share trading session with most indices down across the continent, but that turned around on the news of this fairly tepid response. And in US trading, we saw gains across the board, every sector being pushed higher and every major index finishing in the green. And that positive response was echoed in the trading in Tesla shares. Now, Tesla yesterday announced the beginning of a trial in Austin, Texas, of its robotaxis. This is considered a key part of Tesla's revenue outlook, given that Waymo has been eating into Tesla's EV market share, and that potential for them to fight back with robotaxis was reinforced to investors with this demonstration in Texas overnight. Shares in Tesla rose dramatically. As you can see from this chart, we saw a very good response from investors to the news, with an 8% gain in Tesla's share price, that big green candle on the right there, showing just how well this news was received. And coming on a day when risk appetites were rising, we saw a very strong response from Tesla shareholders and those who would like to be. In trading today, we've got positive leads as we head into the Asia Pacific session. We've seen futures markets make gains of between 0.25% and 1% for the major indices across the Asia Pacific. So it looks like it's going to be a very positive trading day. And especially if the news flow continues to reflect that idea that the worst of the conflict in the Middle East may have passed. We'll be looking today at the mid-session to the debut of Virgin Australia. Well, I shouldn't say debut, because Virgin was listed up until 2017, but it's now being relisted by its current owners, Bain Capital, in an IPO that should garner a lot of attention. The IPO placement price is $2.90. And a lot of analysts have argued that this represents a discount to the Qantas share price. And given that Qantas and Virgin will largely dominate the Australian domestic airways and the connection with international airways, that competition with Queensland, with Qantas, is a key aspect in determining whether or not this might be a good value proposition. And as you can see from this chart, Qantas Airways share price has been under pressure as professional investors have sold down some holdings, it would appear, to buy into the Virgin IPO today. So investors who have bought directly into the IPO will obviously be watching very closely at noon today. For the rest of us, it will be a very interesting question to see. Up until this morning, it was considered the worst possible time to list an airway, with a lot of doubt about the geopolitical outlook, and pressure especially on oil prices, a very significant cost input for airways. And yet overnight, everything has changed. And with investors roaring back into the share market, and with oil prices dropping by more than 10% at one stage, we've now got ideal conditions. So Virgin has turned from the unluckiest IPO this year to possibly the luckiest.